do that. He just got school.
Who are you?
I'm his cousin.
You're his cousin?
I'm his cousin. I ain't do nothing. I just got over here. I just got.
You can take me. You can take me.
I got my phone and my stuff. Come on. Hey, look, come on. Go put your hands.
About to go to jail.
Get down. Stop. Please stop.
A housing complex in full chaos. 20 teenagers brawling in the parking lot, and the second officers pull up. Everybody scatters, but a few of them don't scatter fast enough, and the ones who stay behind make every wrong decision available to them. One girl, instead of walking away, charges at two officers with her hands swinging. Her brother gets detained just for refusing to tell a cop his name. Another girl is sitting on a joint while screaming she did nothing wrong. And through all of it, the mothers show up hot, the kids keep lying, and the officers have to untangle a scene where everyone is pointing fingers and nobody is taking responsibility for a single thing. If you're ready to watch a group of teenagers talk, swing, and lie their way into felony charges on a Tuesday evening over a fight they could have simply walked away from, smash that like button. Let's break down exactly how this fell apart.
Where do you live at? Where do you live? What building?
Come on now.
No. What building do you live in?
I just came
Oh, him.
He ain't got nothing to do with that. He just got school.
Who are you?
I'm his cousin.
You're his cousin?
I'm his cousin. I ain't do nothing. I just got over here.
You can take me. You can take me.
I got my phone and my stuff. Come on. Hey, look, come on. Go put your hands.
You're about to go to jail too.
Get down. Stop. Please stop. Get the Mom,
You guys get Hey, I'm gonna back it up.
It's my big sister, please. Now get my sister. Get my sister the up off that ground, or everything I'm gonna stick the out one of y'all off. Oh God, man. Let me go. I ain't got no Wi-Fi, man. Let me go. Hey, okay. I get down. Call my mama.
Where do you live? Then leave. Where do you live? Get your hands out of your pants. Where do you live at? Where do you live at?
Huh?
Where do you live at?
Why you in my face, cousin?
Come on.
Nobody did to y'all.
I didn't do nothing to you. Stand
Yes,
up.
you did.
Because all I did was put you in cuffs.
Stuff and take me on. See how y'all just dropped that body cam?
Calm down. Calm down.
If you don't live here, leave.
Y'all got my brother. He didn't even do nothing. Y'all just texted him when he
If you don't live here, leave. If you live here, go to your home.
Come get my phone. She want her phone.
No.
She ain't did shit, so why she can't get her phone?
Stand back.
Just ignore Austrians.
Yeah, just ignore me.
We will.
You want to go to jail?
I know. Probably because they was just fighting, man. They tripping. Come to the gardens. They got her in the car, bro.
Step away.
Hey, I'm on the phone. Stop talking. Why you keep talking?
Boy, just wait till my daddy get out here, boy. I'm my soul. You get up, I ain't this. Y'all
Man, bro, shut up, man. Chill out, bro.
You get welcome.
You all right?
Man, they just arrested him too.
Where do you live at? Where do you
Last time you talked to me, you said you're going to kill us all?
I didn't say that. So when you put me in timeout for? You just put me in handcuffs because I didn't want to answer your question.
That's called obstruction.
That's not
And right
called
now, loading and
obstruction.
prowling and obstruction.
Do you know the rule, love, bro? Come on.
Do I know the rule? Yeah, I know the rule. I know the rule.
You just put me in handcuffs.
So, absolutely, it's not a rule.
Bro, let me know.
I'm not sure where you got that rule from, but that's not a rule.
I don't have to answer your question.
You're right. You don't have to answer my question. You can go in handcuffs.
Okay, what apartment you live in?
No, I don't live
Okay.
I live here. What apartment? I live down the street.
I live here, but I don't live here.
This is the way this works. If you do not live on this premises, then you are loitering or prowling, which means you are required to identify yourself to me. If you do live here, and I ask you your name and where you live, and you can't provide it, now you're required to quell my suspicions that you're not loitering and prowling, which is why you're in handcuffs in the back of my car. Now, what's your name? Cameron. I don't want you to be in handcuffs, but I want to take you to jail. I would much rather call your mom come pick you up.
Hey, yo, hold up. Try to swing on the police. So as of right now, your daughter is about to go to the juvenile detention center. You can ask him questions. If
Okay, also, where's my son?
Who's your son?
The little light colored.
He in the car too.
He in the,
They tried to tackle. No, this is what happened. She was not fighting. They was jumping a boy, and then Rashad had jumped in, and I guess they tried to arrest him too. So that's when Kamora swung.
All right, we're gonna stop all this.
All right. Do we have a Rashad in custody?
Her brother.
So he's the first one that charged that man.
But there's no charges on him? No charges. Fight out here. We don't know why yet. As this large fight broke out, officers arrived on scene here and we tried to gain control. Your son Rashad charged at one of the officers. He didn't get hit. He didn't hit anybody or anything like that, so he was detained. When that happened, I guess his sister came up and that's when he struck 2 officers. That's why she ended up getting placed under arrest. Okay?
So out of this whole fight, my daughter the only person going to jail?
As of right now, yeah.
Mom! I want to speak to my mother.
I don't give a Why is my daughter going to jail? Because you doing some extra.
No, ma'am. They was trying to jump Kamora, and I jumped in.
I just started shooting.
You got anything on you? Tell me now. A lighter? Where? Don't reach for it because you're close reach of it. Is there any on you?
I'm going to check the back of the patrol car. I'm going to find it if it's there, okay?
You might as well just tell us. In your sock? She got nothing in her boxers.
Just the joint?
Just the joint. She had weed on her.
No charges, right?
No charges.
Mom's right there. She comes over, release. No charges. No charges. Mom's on the way. Once she gets here, we'll release. Got it?
She had a joint in her sock.
Who does?
The female in that car.
Who's that one?
She's the one who threatened to kill us.
Here. There's apparently 20 individuals. Just a large fight. Yeah. When they arrived on scene, a lot of people scattered.
Yeah.
A couple people came running up, and a couple people ended up getting detained because they were trying to fight police officers.
So I'm the new senior manager here.
Okay.
I'm not going to tolerate it. So if you are tied into this, okay.
You hurt me anywhere, bud?
You okay? My head is hurting. I felt dead on my body.
Do you want to go with EMS? Do you want him to go with EMS?
No, he's fine. Where y'all taking her to? Juvenile?
We're calling right now, so we'll let you know in just a minute. Alright, love you too.
I'm the mother.
Her?
My son, y'all just called me.
Other vehicle.
Oh, everybody knows? What?
He claiming he wasn't out here fighting. He got put in handcuffs because he was out here fighting at some point in time with somebody. So he's not getting charged today, but since he's a juvenile, we got to release him to your custody.
So what happened?
Big vehicle for me.
Turn over, CJ.
And so I'm not telling you what to do, but I think you need to make better decisions. I didn't say. So,
He'll be outside.
I'm just saying.
Okay, thank you. Every black child is not a problem child.
I didn't say he was.
I'm just saying how he got. He was just walking. Y'all put my child in handcuffs because he was walking.
So you believe your child over the police?
Y'all just detained the kids that wasn't.
So this is the way it worked. When I rolled up, everybody scattered. Okay. So I don't know who was fighting, but if they don't live here, it's called loitering and prowling.
What's your name and badge number anyway? We have a black
Officer Johnson, 6.
Okay, let me get a card.
I don't have a card actually.
Y'all gonna just go put him in handcuffs.
Because
And y'all ain't got a reason, so I don't. He wasn't fighting. He wasn't fighting. This was coming from my sister. He wasn't even fighting. She got him on the video camera. Coming to the house was coming from school. Y'all is something else. Y'all better go to the ones that y'all need to go to. You gotta tell me what happened. Stop that. Stop it.
No, you ain't coming out until your mom says so.
Sit back in there. Can anybody tell me what's going on?
We got a call that there were about 20 children up here fighting. So when I showed up, everybody kind of scattered, and then he refused to identify himself, refused to give me his name and his birthday. So at that point it became instruction. He went to handcuffs to be detained. That's why he's in this situation. We're not going to pursue those charges. We're going to release him to you.
What are the charges? Go ahead and take you because I'm getting sick of this. Why didn't you tell this man where you live at? This man ain't lying on you. I know your attitude. This man is not lying on you. You should not have came down here. It is a phone in the schoolhouse that you can use, and several phones there. Somebody is coming to get you. You know that. And then you got an attitude.
Ma'am, thank you.
Let's see if they're going to take her, but the jail wasn't going to. That's literally the only reason she's not going over.
To really understand what went wrong here, we have to slow everything down and look at it piece by piece, because on the surface this looks like a messy, chaotic situation with no clear line of fault. But legally, this entire encounter follows a very clean, very predictable pattern. Every charge that gets handed out at the end of this video is directly traceable to a specific decision one of these kids made in the moments after the officers arrived. None of this was random. None of it was a misunderstanding. It was a series of choices, and each choice had a legal consequence attached to it. Let's start from the very beginning, because the foundation of this entire stop is something most people have never heard of: loitering and prowling. When those officers rolled up to that complex, they responded to a 911 call reporting approximately 20 teenagers engaged in a large physical fight. The moment they arrive, the crowd scatters. Now here's where people get confused. A lot of these kids think that scattering ends their legal exposure. They think if they are not actively throwing punches when the cops arrive, they are in the clear. That is not how it works. Officers responding to an active fight call have the legal authority to detain individuals in the immediate area for investigative purposes, especially when those individuals cannot or will not explain why they are present at the scene of a reported crime. That is loitering and prowling in its most basic form, being present in a place under circumstances that warrant concern at a time and in a manner that suggests criminal activity, and failing to provide a satisfactory explanation when lawfully asked. The statute does not require an officer to catch you mid-punch. It requires only that your presence, your behavior, and your refusal to identify yourself combine to create reasonable suspicion that you are connected to criminal activity. Every kid who refused to say their name, refused to say where they lived, and stood there with an attitude while 20 people were just reported brawling on their doorstep, every single one of them handed the officers the legal justification to hold them right there. Now let us talk about the identification issue, because this is the part that trips up the most people watching this video. A lot of these kids genuinely believe they had the right to stay silent and refuse to give their name, and in some contexts that instinct is rooted in real constitutional law. The Fifth Amendment does protect you from being compelled to incriminate yourself, but here's the critical distinction that these kids miss completely. The loitering and prowling statute in this state creates a specific codified exception. When an officer has reasonable suspicion that you're loitering and prowling, you're legally required to identify yourself and provide a satisfactory explanation for your presence. This is called a stop and identify obligation, and it is triggered by the specific circumstances of this stop. You're not being asked to confess to a crime, you're being asked to tell the officer your name and where you live so that they can determine whether you even belong on this property in the first place. Refusing to answer that question under these exact circumstances is not a constitutional right being exercised. It is obstruction, and obstruction is exactly what lands multiple kids in handcuffs in the back of patrol cars before this night is over. Now let us get to the moment that changes everything, the moment Kimura decides to physically go after two officers. This is where the evening goes from a potential juvenile citation situation into a felony arrest. Her brother Rashad gets detained, he does not get charged, he did not strike anyone. He was physically controlled at the scene of a large fight, but his conduct did not cross the criminal threshold. The officers actually make that distinction clearly on camera. He is detained, not arrested, and he is released to his mother. But Kimura watches her brother get taken down and decides the correct response is to charge at the officers with her hands. That single decision is the most consequential moment in this entire video. 2 counts of battery on a law enforcement officer. Battery on a law enforcement officer is a felony, not a misdemeanor, not a citation. A felony with consequences that will follow her into every job application, every housing application, and every background check for the rest of her life. And the tragic part is that nothing about what happened to Rashad required her to intervene physically. He was not being harmed, he was not in danger, he was being detained on the scene of a fight while officers tried to make sense of a chaotic situation. Her emotional reaction, though completely understandable from a human standpoint, was legally catastrophic. This brings us to one of the most important psychological concepts playing out across this entire video, the protective instinct being weaponized against the person it is trying to help. We see it with Kimura jumping in for Rashad, we see it with the mothers who arrive and immediately go into defense mode, insisting their children were doing nothing wrong. That instinct to protect the people you love is completely natural, but on the scene of an active police response, that instinct when acted on impulsively and physically almost always makes the situation worse for everyone involved. The officers on scene are not enemies of these families, they are trying to process a massive chaotic scene with multiple people, multiple versions of events, and no clear picture yet of who did what. The fastest way to help your child in that situation is to cooperate, to provide accurate information, and to let the legal process do what it is designed to do. The moment a family member physically or verbally escalates the scene, they become part of the incident rather than a resource for resolving it. Let us talk about Gloria for a moment, because her situation is a fascinating case study in compounding bad decisions. She is holding a joint in her sock during a police interaction. At the scene of a felony fight, the officer tells her plainly, "If it is back here in the patrol car, I'm going to find it, and you might as well tell me now." She stays quiet. They find it anyway. Here is the legal reality of that moment. Had she disclosed it immediately and voluntarily, a simple marijuana possession charge in a juvenile context is often handled through a diversion program, community service, or a fine. It is manageable, but she is already facing obstruction and loitering and prowling charges by the time the weed is found. Now you have a juvenile with 3 charges on the same night, on the same scene. Each charge stacks, each charge adds complexity to the court process, each charge adds costs to the family in the form of attorney fees, court dates, and potential probation. All of that for staying quiet about something the officer was going to find in 60 seconds regardless. Now here's the legal reality that the mothers in this video needed to hear, and frankly that every parent watching needs to understand. When juveniles are charged with felonies, the standard protections of the juvenile justice system can be bypassed depending on the severity of the charge and the child's prior history. Battery on a law enforcement officer is serious enough in many states to be prosecuted in adult court. That means adult charges, adult conviction records, and adult consequences for a 17 or 18-year-old who made an impulsive decision in a parking lot. The officers on scene are not the ones who decide how hard that landing is. The prosecutor decides, the judge decides, and both of them are going to be looking at the facts documented on the body cam footage that captured the entire encounter from start to finish. There's also something important to address about the property manager appearing on scene. His statement is significant. He makes clear that anyone tied to this incident who lives on the property is going to receive a notice to vacate. That means the legal fallout from this fight does not stop at the criminal charges. It potentially extends to housing. Entire families can lose their apartment over a parking lot brawl. That is the domino effect that nobody thinks about in the heat of the moment. That a juvenile fight does not just create a court date, it can uproot a household. The officer who sat down and explained the loitering and prowling law to the kid in the back of the patrol car did something that deserves acknowledgement. He did not lecture, he did not demean, he simply laid out the rule clearly and gave the child a straightforward explanation of exactly why he was sitting in handcuffs. He said he would much rather call the mother and release the child than take them downtown. That is not the behavior of an officer looking to ruin someone's night. That is a professional trying to resolve a situation with the least amount of permanent damage possible. And the child who finally gave his name and cooperated. He went home. That is the lesson in its simplest form. Cooperation does not mean you're guilty. It does not mean you're weak. It means you understand that the side of the road and the back of a patrol car and a housing complex parking lot are not the places where justice gets argued and won. Those arguments belong in a courtroom with a lawyer in front of a judge. In the end, Kimura left that night with felony battery on 2 law enforcement officers, obstruction and loitering and prowling. Gloria left with marijuana possession, obstruction, and loitering and prowling. The others went home to their parents. The difference between the ones who went home and the ones who did not comes down to one thing: the decision to either answer a simple question or not. A name, a building number, 2 pieces of information that cost nothing to give and everything to withhold. The criminal justice system is a machine that does not negotiate with pride.